Hey everyone, welcome to EzFinTiPs. I hope you'll find tremendous value in this conversation today. I have a great teacher who's going to share their experience. He has worked in sales, banking, and in the investment industry for over 35 years. What is great about him, he's always used his position of power as a manager and his experiences as an entrepreneur to educate and help people up. So he has a lot of wisdom and knowledge. So Gregory, thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge with us.
All right. Thank you for having me. It's a most gracious introduction, and hopefully I'm worthy of it. But thank you for having me, man. It's most honored to be here to share this experience with you. You have no idea the amount of feelings I have that's going through me right now that we are sharing this experience together. And for obvious reasons, I'm sure you understand. But as the young people say, man, before I get all emotional, like the young people say, let's spit.
Definitely. So let's get to it, Gregory.
All right.
So first question, in its simplest form, what is sales in your opinion?
All right. In my opinion, and before we go to my opinion, if you don't mind, allow me to indulge me for a minute. Sales is simple, real simple. It's just the exchange of goods and services for a price. The other side to this is that when people think of sales in the context that you're thinking within the context of sales and sales presentations to others in order to purchase these goods. And that dates back to Aristotle. Aristotle is the one who talked about the art of persuasion. The art of persuasion is one that was commonly used in sales. And you probably, art of persuasion basically says, okay, if I use the right words, I can get you to do anything. And sales took on that undertone for a long time. And if you take a look at the used car salesman and furniture salesman, you'll see they'll use a lot of catchy phrases and a lot of words that are emotional to get you to buy something. So for me, to answer your question, what is sales? Sales comprises basically of three components. And the three components are the sales presentation, the marketing, and the business development. The sales presentation is one that we can probably spend a lot of time on and talk a lot about because there's so much meat there to discuss that you really want to, if for any really good salesperson to be able to do a really good job in terms of presenting to his customer to understand the sales process. And if I'm understanding correctly, that's exactly what you're asking me. Tell me a little bit about the sales process and how the sales process really works, right? For me, the sales process, and understand, guys, let's start be real simple in that with a sales process, once you've narrowed your sales process down, don't change it. You got to stick to it. The sales process basically comprised of a presentation to a customer. With the presentation, you have your introduction, you have the body, you're telling them a little bit about the product you're about to present, and then you're doing at that point, after you've done that, the introduction and the presentation, you're really doing a soft close. It's very important at this stage of the game, when you do your first soft close, it cannot be a simple yes or no. It has to be an open-ended question. Because if you've done a presentation to me and you're selling me something, and you said at the first, after you've done your presentation, do you want to buy it? I'll probably say no. 9 times out of 10, people are going to say no. There's no question that people are going to say no. So when you finish that first part of your presentation, you really want to ask an open-ended question. That open-ended question is going to be one similar to, does this make sense? Because quite frankly, you're building an argument throughout the sales process. And the reason you're asking, does this make sense, It's because you can go back to the guy and you can say to him, hey, you told me this makes sense. This is what you want. Because on the second, where he says, yeah, it makes sense, and you continue your presentation, now you're presenting this in terms of why this is good for you. And hopefully at this stage of the game, you've done your prospecting, and your prospecting is everything, guys. If you're not prospecting, you might as well not sell. I'll be totally frank with you. You're just shooting at crabs in a barrel or something, because you're not making good use of your time. Which, if you have properly prospected, then you know the guy that you got in front of you, the guy you got on the other end of the line, or the guy you have on the other side of the internet, he is a prospective customer, which means you have properly prospected,
So you talk about prospecting. Um,
right?
what is one effective way to prospect a client?
Okay. I think I need to take a step back for a minute, because, and then I'll answer your question if you don't mind.
Mhm.
Everyone's a salesman. Everyone comes across and they'll say to you, well, I'm not really good at sales. I'm not. No, everyone's a salesman. We've been selling since we were born. We just don't, we sell different things. When you're born and as a baby and you go into that grocery store, you know how to get your mama to buy what you wanted. You were selling her. When you, you're absolutely selling her. You know, when you greet friends and her friends and they say, oh, he's cute, you're selling them. Okay. But so in that sense, everyone's a salesman. But not to get off track, for prospecting, and to answer your question relative to prospecting,
Mhm.
you you really want to take a good look at your product, which is part of your marketing, which means you've done exceptional marketing. So now you know who falls within your market. You've done, once you've done the proper marketing, then you can, of course, attract any customer with your attack any customer, sorry, with your presentation, because you've properly marketed your product, and you know the people that are in front of you are prospective customers. A lot of times when people prospect, and this is old school, back in the day when I first started in the sales business, you'll get on the line and you'll make 300 calls a day.
Mhm.
And you're in at 7 and you're out at 8, and you're making 300 calls a day. And sometimes you might get maybe 5 or 7 good leads. And I remember my sales manager used to take a look at them and he'll go, this is wood. This is wood. Okay, this is a good one. So out of the 5 I've given them, only 2 of them are good. Are you kidding me right now? I worked all day for this. So I didn't understand the process at the time, but the fact of the matter is, when you prospect and let's say hypothetical, you're selling TVs, and you ask the guy, are you in the market for TV?
Mhm.
And he says no. Well, you don't want to, I'll go back, and you'll ask a guy, what size TV do you like? I like 65-inch. Great. Let me ask you, are you in the market for a TV? And the guy says no. Says, do you have the wherewithal to buy a TV right now? No. Uh, that's not a lead. Because he says he like a 65-inch TV, that don't make it a lead. You really, or a good prospect, you really want someone who says, I am in the market for a TV. I have the wherewithal to buy the TV. I need a TV. So that when you do sit down with this guy, you're saying, hey, I spoke to you a week ago. You told me you were in the market for a TV. You told me you had the wherewithal for the TV. I've done my research and I'm getting back to you with the best TV within the industry.
Okay.
And then you can do your presentation to that guy. That guy's a prospect. You want to make sure that the product that you're getting ready to do the presentation on, that you have actually done the research and speaking with the guy and verifying that he's a prospect. And if you didn't, you're just spinning your wheels. You're just shooting off presentations, and some of them are going to really be exceptional. And you'd be like, dang, why didn't this guy buy from me? It's real simple. He wasn't in the market for the TV. So prospecting is an important part of your business. The way that I find to be effective as a prospector is just simply pick up the phone.
Mhm.
And with picking up the phone, we always wait for the customer to answer before we go in to our presentation. From the moment that phone, you pick up that phone to dial, you should be on ready.
Mhm.
You should be on with the expectation that this guy is going to answer the phone. This guy is going to talk to me. It doesn't matter whether you get a message or voicemail, but you have to be ready. That's the most important part of prospecting, because if you don't have the marbles out of your mouth when you start to talk, why is this guy calling me? Why are you wasting my time? Because the truth of the matter is, most people that are good prospects don't have a lot of time.
Right.
They want to be to the point and understand that there are only 3 or 4 different types of customers. There's not a whole lot. So you
Mhm.
have to be able to identify the different types of customers, which we can cover in another session. There's either going to be the wallflower, there's going to be the guy who's going to give you pushback out the gate. No, 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 I don't want to talk to you. The wallflower is going to talk to you about everything except the business. He's like, yeah, you be like, oh yeah, that person was really nice. Yeah, they might really be nice, but they ain't doing no business with you, my friend. So he gonna give you some pushback, and also if you're not gonna get any pushback there, and then you're gonna get the guy that wants to research everything.
Mm.
You're going to get the guy that says, hey, I want to research. I want to talk to my wife. This guy has to think about every decision that he makes. And then there's the last one who possibly is going to be the best customer is the guy who tries to overrun you. The guy who tries to overrun you is going to be your best customer.
Mhm.
I ain't got time for you right now. Could you give me a call back? No. And that's the guy that you want, because he is a business guy. Let's get to it. He don't have time to sit around and wait for you to get the stammers out of your mouth and for you not to be ready with your presentation. At some point, he's going to say, okay, what you got?
Okay.
And that's when you
So I
go with
guess
this guy
for
that's prospecting. Go ahead.
a beginner, the best. So I guess from what I'm hearing is for you to understand who is the best prospect, you gauge it from the type of conversation you're having then. If you meet the guy who said, you know what, I don't have time for you right now, I'll give you 5 minutes, that is the person who you should be selling.
That's the guy, because the person who is going to take you through and be real nice and talk to you for half an hour, and it's really beautiful in Washington and the sun is shining here. Where are you at? Is the sun shining over there? That ain't going to get you nowhere. Guys who have money to buy your product don't have time. Quite frankly, they don't have time. So
Yeah.
you got to understand those 4 personalities. And then at some point, yeah, I like to come back and talk about those 4 personalities, because it can take up to an hour, half an hour to discuss the different type of personalities. But don't think that there are a lot of different personalities out there when you pick up that phone to call. Know there are 4 different types of personalities, and you just have to be ready for the personality that you meet.
Okay. Good stuff. So from the conversation, one question that I want to answer is it better than to know your product, or is it more important to build a rapport with the client? Or are they
All
both
right.
equally important?
Great question. It's more important not necessarily to know your product, but to believe in your product. That's different. You can know your product. I've had plenty of presentations where I knew the product inside and out. I didn't believe in it. And I
Hmm.
wasn't able to sell anything, because at the end of the day, your heart isn't in it. You
Mhm.
have to believe in the product in which you're doing the presentation to in order to sell it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
building a rapport with your customer comes after he's your customer. And that falls under business development,
Mhm.
because you want to build a relationship with your customer. And it goes back to where I said in the beginning, where sales has changed, where
Mhm.
Aristotle just thought it was the art of persuasion and get them out the door. But
Mhm.
in today's market, you have to be able to build a relationship with the guy. It's all about relationship building. The way
Mhm.
you do that, we can, of course, discuss. But to answer your question, it's not part of the sales process, the selling process, but it's part of the retention process in
Mhm.
terms of knowing and believing in knowing your customer. But in terms of knowing your product, you should know your product for your presentation,
Mhm, mhm,
because knowing the type of atmosphere with which we live in these days, we are in I call it Wikipedia University type environment.
mhm,
So anyone that you speak to or do a presentation with will want to will have some sort of knowledge before they sit down in front of you.
mhm,
They want to know, they before people go shopping these days. And like I always say, I truly believe that one of the big issues for salespeople is that they think they're better salespeople than the person that they're selling to,
mhm,
than the person, our buyers. People are better buyers than anyone would ever be a seller. It's through repetition. They buy groceries, they buy TVs, they buy gas. They do more buying, so they're better buyers than we are sellers. Look, if I had an interview
mhm,
with 10 candidates,
mhm,
I don't want the candidate that might be the most articulate, the one who might have the art of persuasion. I want the guy who can build a relationship with his customers. I
mm,
want the guy that understands his customers or
mhm,
understand his prospects, because if he understands his prospects,
mhm,
he's going to have a high closure rate.
mhm,
The
mhm,
guy with there's no catchy lines or phrases in sales to convince anybody today to buy anything. No, they have a lot of questions. They're on the internet. They're looking things up before they sit down with you. They already have some sort of idea as to what they're buying. So knowing your product is critical to making a good sales presentation. You should be the authority on the subject.
yeah,
When you're done with this guy, he should be like, wow,
mhm,
you know everything there is to know.
mhm,
You know everything that there is to know, and that he has no questions in terms of, because customers, when you're doing a presentation, they look for an out.
let's say you did a presentation
Mhm.
and realize that the client now is looking for an out. How
Right.
do you know it's time to move to close then?
All right. It's real simple. And I was watching on television uh last night, and this guy, he knew his product, he sold it, and the customer said yes,
Mhm,
and he kept on talking.
okay.
He talked himself right out the deal. I call it diarrhea of the mouth.
Right.
When you ask a guy for the sale and he says yes,
Yeah,
there's no more to discuss. The only time there becomes more discussion is when the guy says no. When a guy says no, you you take him to the mat,
mhm,
because first of all, to answer your question most succinctly, there's what I call the ABCs.
mhm,
Your ABCs are always be closing.
mhm,
As long as you follow your ABCs, then you don't have an issue. You
mhm.
always be closing. And once you close a guy, you shut up. You let him, you take the order, you shut up, you stop talking. So I would say that the answer, your question is one that a lot of salespeople make.
Mhm.
And to say, quite frankly, they have to learn that to shut up. Just simply shut up. There's nothing more to it. The guy says yes. There's nothing more to it than to shut up and
Yeah.
get your pad and pen and take the order.
Look at it from a different perspective then.
All
Let's say
right.
the client says no. Do you just
Oh,
let the client walk away or what do you do?
okay. The client says no to you. And I remember my first sales position, and I'm like, I'm quitting this. I hit the wall. I'm getting so many no's. It's just out freaking my ears. And my sales manager say, you should like no's, because the more no's you hear, you're getting close to the yes,
Mhm.
because it's just a matter of statistics. Sooner or later, you're gonna hear that yes.
Yeah,
But to answer your question, if the guy says no,
yeah,
you continue with your rebuttals. You rebut the guy. You understand why he's saying no. No, I don't want to buy this. Mr. LaSalle's, why is it that you're saying no? You told me that you were looking for this, you were looking for this, you're looking for this, and this television offer all these features that you're looking for. Why is it saying no? So now you get the guy to talking, and he tells you why he's saying no. So
Mhm.
once he tells you why he's saying no, now if you understand your product and why he's saying no, you can rebut the guy. My theory was, if you tell me no,
Mhm.
and you tell me, because you're selling me like I'm selling you. Like I said to you earlier,
Mhm.
those guys are better than we are because we sell more, we sell less than they buy.
Mhm.
So if the guy says no to me, I want to understand why he's saying no.
Yeah.
Once he has explained to me why he's saying no, and I go through the process of understanding his rebuttal and his legitimacy, I do not accept my first no. So I go back and I go through my presentation again. You told me this, you told me that, this, and this. And I come back to you and the guy says no.
Mhm.
If the guy says no and he gives you the same reason, you got to put it to the test. You go back and you go through your rebuttals again and you rebut the guy, and the guy says no. And you ask him why. And if on the third time he says the same answer, then he's telling the truth.
Okay.
If the guy says, I ain't got no money, I got to talk to my wife, the babysitter is at home, that guy, there's something wrong. He doesn't like you, or he doesn't like your presentation. He
Mhm.
thinks your presentation was sloppy,
Mhm.
and he's lying to you. He's really in the market. If you've done your proper prospecting, he's really in the market, but you did not convince him to buy from you.
Okay. So quick question then. So let's say for some reason you get the inclination that the person didn't like your presentation.
Right.
How do you rebound from that?
Oh, you have to be most generous and gracious
Mhm.
and accept that. You
Okay.
know, if you get the impression that this guy just did not like your presentation, it's not on him, it's on you.
Mhm.
Because for me, every presentation that I did that day, when I went home that night, I recreated in my mind all the presentations that I did. Which ones worked, which ones didn't work necessarily from a tone or listening perspective. I'm looking at technical things here. Did I listen enough? Did I did the right probing? Did I ask the right questions? And find out. And I broke down each conversation or each presentation I did. So when a guy said no to me, it wasn't him, it was me. I
Mhm.
failed,
Mhm.
so I can't be mad at him. A lot
Mhm.
of times we get mad at the customer and we say, that's because it makes us feel better. But the truth of the matter is, we failed. If we did our proper prospecting and this guy was up to buy and he came in, then we made a mistake. We didn't sell the guy. So the other part of that is, and it depends. For me, if I'm doing face to face sales, depending on what you're selling, and I'm setting an appointment to go meet a guy, I'm not going to meet the guy unless he's bringing his checkbook.
Mhm.
Because if you don't bring your checkbook, you're not ready to do business.
Mhm.
I can do 100 of those presentations a day and take people out to lunch that's in my family and
Mhm.
laugh and have drinks and say goodbye, thank you, I'll think about it. But a guy who really wants to do business with you will always have his checkbook ready to do business. He
So
has to have, if not, he's not ready to do business.
so how do you set the expectation that this appointment is to close the deal or to
Right?
do business instead of doing over your presentation again?
Right. Great question. And I have to touch on something a little bit that is very common today. And I'm telling you, young people don't do it. Please don't do it. When you're starting your business and you're prospecting, do not send out a deck to every last person. It costs too much money and you're trying to build a business. Only send out your deck to prospects. If you're wasting money, you're throwing money out the window. People don't check their mailboxes these days. or the mail piles up, don't do it. Save the money and put it somewhere else that will develop your business.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, uh, if a customer that you're saying, hey, I didn't sell this guy and I moved on, and how do I learn from it was your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you mind?
So that was the question before. So the question is, if I didn't do a good presentation, how do I win that client back? And
Okay.
then,
Okay.
if how do I win that client back? And then let's say now you want to do this meeting again, you get the opportunity to do the meeting. How do you set the expectations that this is to close the deal and not
And
just
not to, okay.
completion?
So if you have met with a client and you've gone through your presentation and he says no, the truth is that you should never walk away from that meeting with something in hand. Either you're setting up another appointment at that time that he says no, okay, I understand you want to think about it. Let's reconvene in a week. And you're going to pencil the guy in, sir. I'm going to pencil you in for next Friday. I'll call you back on Wednesday to confirm, and let's meet again. Number two, in terms of setting the right expectation, the expectation has to be set at the first call.
Mm.
When I was meeting customers face to face, I was totally frank with my customers. I'll say, Mr. Omar, we're set to meet on Thursday the 15th. Please, I ask that all my customers bring their checkbook with them. It simply sends a message to me that you're looking and ready to do business. Is that okay with you?
Mhm.
Real simple. It's the same amount of energy that it'll take to say to the guy, I'll see you on Friday. It's the same amount of energy. So why not go the extra mile to firm up the guy? You have to firm up your guy. If you don't firm him up, you're wasting your time because I'm telling you, since you spoke to the guy last a week ago, he done had 4 or 5 other people call him trying to sell him something.
Mhm.
Because if 4 or 5 people didn't call him to sell him something, he's not a good prospect. You want a guy that's getting called because he has the money to be able to buy from you. But you have to set the right expectations. If the guy at the first meeting says no, which is understandable, before you walk away from the table, leave with something. Get an appointment for the next time. Don't say, okay, I'll talk to you. No, you have to nail it down. Sir, do you mind if we set an appointment for next Wednesday, next Thursday, so we can meet again to further discuss this? If you realize that you have done a poor presentation, it's okay. Go back to the drawing boards. Everybody has bad days. Everyone has bad presentations, but you can't beat yourself up. Continue on your path and you'll be successful. Excuse me 1 second, because I live by these words right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it says, all things are possible who believe.
Mhm.
Every
Mhm.
morning I get up, Omar.
Mhm.
Every time I get up, when I get up in the morning, I meditate, I pray, I have a cup of coffee. When I have that cup of coffee, this is what I take a look at. Some people put a car on the refrigerator. Some people have a snippet with something of I want $5 million in 3 years. This is me. As a salesperson, you have to believe. If you don't believe, you can't sell nothing. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you have a one-off situation, you had a bad presentation, it's okay. Dust yourself off, pat yourself on the back, and start all over again.
This is the final question from a great
Okay.
conversation. Thank you.
Mhm.
When it comes to sales in
Right.
your business, when you're starting out your business,
Right.
what is the best route to take to explain your product to potential clients?
Okay. If you're starting out your business, hopefully you've done some research. Part of that research would have been standing on the corner and talking to people, and you got your clipboard, good old fashioned way. Mr. Jones, I'm getting ready to open up a car wash over here. Do you see a need for a car wash over here? Yeah. Okay, next, Mr. Jones, do you see? And at the end of the day, Once now you have spoken to 500 or 1,000 people and you recognize that, hey, there's a need for a parking lot or a car wash over here, now you can go ahead with, okay, I'm ready for to start my car wash. I've started my car wash. I've taken my little monies from my 401k and I've started my business. And now I'm ready to hit customers.
Mhm.
The best process for me that I find to hit customers is through calling. I
Mhm.
find that people don't respond to mailers. If you send out 1,000 or 10,000 mailers, you'll be lucky if one person responds. People respond to mailers if they already have business with you. If they don't have business with you, they don't respond to you. They don't know you. We
Mhm.
operate in a new day. Everybody thinks something is fraud. And the other end is, do we do those email blasts? Email blasts was good for a while. Now we get so much spam and spam, you're spending your money and it's going down the wrong place. Good old fashioned, pick up the phone, do your prospecting. Once you've done your prospecting, you've called 300 people, you've got 4 or 5 good leads. You call those 4 or 5 good leads back and you set them up to do business with you. But I find the best way when you're looking to do prospect for your business is to get on the phone with customers and give them a call. And that's given with the understanding that either you're going to do a presentation at that point or you're going to set an appointment to meet them. If you're going to set an appointment to meet them, then fine. If not, you set an appointment to talk to them over the phone. But you definitely have to, and the most effective way is still to call a guy on the phone. Understanding that there are a lot of laws in place these days that you can't do before 8, before 9, not after 8. And I get that, but it's still the best. It really is still the best to connect with customers.
All right, good, good. So Gregory, I do appreciate you taking the time and sharing a lot of those nuggets for us, with us. And final question before we get out of here. If someone sees this video and they want to work with you, where's the best way to, how is the best way to reach you?
I'm humbled by that. Uh, I would say the best way for someone to get in contact with me and says, hey, you sound like you got a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that you'd like to share. I'm not at that point in my career where I'm willing to say, okay, let's work together. And quite frankly, I don't have a lot of time because my job these days require a lot of my time. But here's what I suggest. I suggest is that they use your site and say, hey, this guy was really interested. Could you get him back on? And send some questions to him and let's talk about it. And I'll come back for you and we'll talk about it some more. But for myself, I'm not going to do it. But for you, I'll come back.
Uh,
All right.
thank you, Gregory, and much appreciated. Thank you for
Yeah.
everything.
Much
Right?
love.